Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm continuing my Torah reading. I'm in Exodus chapter 25. We just had Shavuot, and Shavuot was celebrated by some groups in America yesterday and continuing in today. In Israel and in other parts of America, it was celebrated on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of June. This is June 2024. And so we had that feast that celebrates the giving of the law. Now we are moving into worship. So God has laid out laws. Now He's laying out procedures for worship and how to be close to Him. And we're going to be talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant goes into the tabernacle. And then the tabernacle became the temple. So we're going to start by reading Genesis chapter 25. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they may bring me a contribution. From every man whose heart prompteth him shall into there ye take my allotment. And this is the contribution which shall be take from them, gold and silver and copper, and blue and purple and scarlet yarn, linen thread, and goat's hair, the ram skins dyed red, and badger skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for atonement oil, and for the incense of spices, onyx stones, stones for setting, for the ephod, and for the breastplate. And they shall make me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in the midst of them, in accordance with all that I have shown thee, the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of the instruments thereof. So shall ye make it. This is the Torah. You turn the pages this way like mango. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length, and a cubit and a half its breadth, and a cubit and a half its height. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it. And thou shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast it for 4 rings of gold, and put them on the 4 corners thereof. Namely, 2 rings shall be on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt place the staves in the rings upon the sides of the ark, wherein to bear the ark. In the rings of the ark shall the staves remain, they shall not be removed therefrom. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I will give unto thee. And thou shalt make a cover of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, and the cubit and a half its breadth, and shall make 2 cherubim of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, and on the 2 ends of the cover. And thou shalt make 1 cherubim on the end, and make the other cherubim on the other end. From the cover itself shall ye make the cherubim and 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim shall be spread forth their wings on the high overshadowing the cover with their wings, and their faces turned to one another. Forward the cover shall the faces of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the cover above the ark. In the ark shalt thou put the testimony which I will give unto thee, and I will meet with thee there, and will speak with thee from above the cover, from between the two cherubims, which are on the ark of the testimony, of which I will command thee unto the children of Israel. Thou shalt also make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, and the cubit its breadth, and the cubit and a half its height. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make unto the crown of gold around about. And thou shalt make it to the right half of the first breadth around about. And thou shalt make a golden crown on the rim about it, and thou shalt make it 4 rings of gold, and thou shalt put the rings on the 4 corners that are the 4 feet thereof. Close under the rim shall the rings be, as it places for the staves at the table. And thou shalt make staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be bore with them. And thou shalt make its dishes, its spoons, its supporters, and its purifying tubes, wherein, and it's got in parentheses, the bread is to be covered of pure gold. Thou shalt make them. And thou shalt set upon the table, show bread before them, me always. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop at the Ark of the Covenant and the table. Maybe I should have stopped at the Ark of the Covenant. By the next reading, I'm hoping to have a replica of the candlestick. So, in the Ark of the Covenant, we have 2 cherubim, and God appeared to the high priest above these cherubim in their inner sanctuary of the tabernacle, which is what God is giving Moses instruction on now, and later in the temple. Now, I want you to read some things in here about the mercy seat and the cherubim. The mercy seat is referred to more than 20 times in the Bible. It's the top lid of the ark. It's also called the atonement cover, which is made of pure gold. God promised to be present on the mercy seat, especially during the annual Day of Atonement, when the high priest made sacrifices for the people. What I'm looking for in here, and I honestly had not read this completely through, these are the contents that are to go in the ark: the jar of manna, Aaron's staff, and the tablets of the covenant. Let me see if it's mentioned in here. When Jesus was resurrected, it's believed that 2 cherubim were on the top of his head, and 1 cherubim was at the bottom of his feet, and that's how he was resurrected, with 2 angels. But I also wanted to talk about where the Ark of the Covenant went. Now, there's more than half a dozen theories about the Ark of the Covenant is. Some believe that it was found under Calvary, that Jesus Christ's blood dripped on the Ark of the Covenant, and it was beneath the cross of Jesus. I watched a documentary where they said that it was in a museum in the back room in Ethiopia. Of course, that's been decades ago. That could have been moved by now. So here we have at Mount Sinai, Moses and the Israelites build the ark and place it in the tabernacle. They take the ark with them into the wilderness journey. The tabernacle and ark are set up at Shiloh. Now, Shiloh is northwest of Israel. And also at Shiloh, a tabernacle was built. And also at Shiloh is a research center for the red heifers. So I don't know if the Israelis are planning on sacrificing the red heifers at Shiloh, but between Shiloh and Jerusalem, it's kind of like this angle. Here's Shiloh, here's Jerusalem, and right here is Gibeon in between. Now, Gibeon is said to be the location, by some, of the Temple of Solomon. There was a tabernacle in Shiloh, a tabernacle in Gibeon, King David, and then a temple in Gibeon, and then a temple in Jerusalem, the one that Herod built, the one that Jesus went to and threw the chairs and tables around. So the first temple, it's believed, was in Gibeon. Now, at that site in Gibeon is a mosque, but also a synagogue, and they sit right next to each other. And underneath that historical site, there's probably evidence of that temple. And I just watched a video of this couple who explores in Israel, and they showed the tomb of Absalom, who was King David's bad son, who tried to become king himself, and Solomon was chosen by God. So that didn't end well for Absalom, but his tomb is there, and it's at that site, and you can walk around that tomb. Some people believe it's not Absalom. Some people do. But you can walk around that site, and you can see that there is a building there, and that could be the temple. Now, I won't say any of this definitively. The gentleman that discovered the ark, that was many believed to be the ark, below the cross, where the cross of Jesus was, that blood dripped on it, they've had the blood DNA typed, and all this I would say extreme information, or from my point of view it is, but they said it's only got 23 chromosomes, like there's mother's chromosomes and one for God. There's like a God chromosome. So all of this stuff can get very far-fetched very quickly, and I would not say any of it definitively. I do believe that it's in the realm of possibilities, but I wouldn't accept it as canon, if you know what I mean. But all of this is very interesting, and all these items and how they're done have symbolism. The two cherubim have always been, in my studies, the surrounding the presence of God and Jesus Christ. And I've seen that through my whole life. When I was young, I was a junior church leader. And I had this wonderful felt model that I showed the children, and I would put all the pieces um, of the tabernacle on that board. And it was a very nice felt set. I'd love to have it again. I don't know that I could find it. Obviously, the one that I used when I was younger would be vintage, but and I don't know if they're made anymore. But so when I was a Christian, before I became an atheist, I was studying this then as a child, but I was still studying it in an in-depth way. I also have reviewed a devotional by someone who was teaching people how to pray, because in the outer sanctuary you have God, in the inner sanctuary the high priest only went, and he was in the presence of God, in the actual presence of God, but maybe not in where he was showing his face, because there's all kinds of scriptures about God showing his face to people, whether they can survive it or not. But then there's the outer sanctuary, and then there's the courtyard. And then when they would have ceremonies, there would be all the 12 tribes of Israel surrounding the tabernacle as these ceremonies were going on. And there's just so much information to learn about the every little thing about the tabernacle. Let's see. I hadn't looked in this very much at this point either. Okay, this is talking about the gates and offerings and some of the things in the outer area. Okay, this is talking about the lampstand, the showbread. Here's the showbread table, and each loaf of bread was from a tribe. So there are 12 showbreads. And I've always wondered, well, what is showbread? It just means that it's bread you are showing. It's not any particular grain. I have a family member with celiac disease, and we have all these alternative grains that we've eaten through the years. But showbread is just bread that you show on the table. I laughed when I finally figured that out. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. See, where does it say? Okay, here it says the Ark of the Covenant. The central focus of the entire tabernacle was the ark in the most holy place, where God spoke to the high priest above the mercy seat, and the area where the winged cherubim faced each other. Annually, the priest would sprinkle blood on the mercy seat to atone for the sins of the people. Now, the very first worship service that was happened at the base of Mount Sinai with Moses, they had 12 columns up, and he made a sacrifice, and he sprinkled blood on the 70 elders that were there. So that turned into blood being sprinkled on the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant later. Okay, I need to make an apology. The altar was made of Arcadia. Okay, Shittim wood. Arcadia and Shittim wood are the same thing. And in previous readings, I pronounced it didn't say Arcadia, it said Shittim. Shittim. It's Shittim, but I didn't know that before. And I actually had watched a video of a Jewish gentleman saying Shittim over and over and over and over. And I kind of got that fever, and I was saying it over and over and over, but it's not Shittim, it's Shittim. It's got an A sound for some reason instead of the I sound. So, and the altar was covered with bronze, 4 corners had horns, and there were bronze shavels, basins, flesh hooks or forks, and fire pans to collect the ashes. So when and if they haven't already, done a red heifer sacrifice in Israel in the last, few months, this is what they would do. And they would collect the ashes of the red heifer in the jar. And red heifer ashes are to purify the priest. They're not to purify an area. I watched a video the other day that was really meant to divide people, because they were saying that they were doing the red heifer ashes to put, after they demolished the Dome of the Rock, to put the red heifer ashes there at the site to purify it. That's not it at all. The red heifer ashes are used on people, not places. And remember, there's Gibeon, Shiloh, and Jerusalem. And Shiloh, where they have a red heifer research center, has been a location of a tabernacle where they made sacrifices. And they made sacrifices in the tabernacle in the wilderness too. And then Gibeon, where they had a tabernacle, they made sacrifices. And then later, when they had Solomon's temple, they sacrificed red heifers there too. So that doesn't have to be that red heifers are sacrificed at the Dome of the Rock after it's destroyed and a temple is put there. That doesn't have to happen. There's a site on the Mount of Olives that has a sacrificing altar that's outside of where the temple stood in Jerusalem, and the red heifers can be sacrificed there. But people have gone red heifer crazy and are saying that the ashes are going to be used to sanctify the site after the Dome of the Rock is demolished. None of that's true. And even if there is a radical part of the Israelis that wants to do that, realistically they can't. And that's something that might be decades or centuries away from today. And because there's Shiloh and there's Gibeon, and then there's the Mount of Olives before you get to the Dome of the Rock. So please calm down and stop creating World War III over a bunch of red cows. I'm serious. See how information is being used to divide and conquer, and it's disturbing, because we can share Jerusalem. The Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims can share Jerusalem and honor all of our holy sites without creating war, without kidnapping, killing, and raping people. So let's try to obtain that peace. You all have a wonderful and blessed day, and be good to each other, no matter what branch of the Abrahamic religion you are in or not in.